First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing pounds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective, but an erratic detective is Mickey Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, Gildarie, you deal with that. You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that.
Hi, good evening. Welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. Wherever you are, good night, good morning, good midnight to you too. I hope that you're having a very pleasant day or night. And if you're cooking, I hope that that you pay attention, it doesn't get burnt. I want to say good night to my co-host Freddie Kissoon. We've been away from you over the last couple of days, just over a week. One, I was out of the country, and two, Freddie Kissoon, Ole just stepped in, but he's going to tell you a little more about that. And so, unfortunately, we could not have been here, but we did miss you. And of course, we did had scores, hundreds of people reaching out to us. What are we doing? Did Freddie and I had a huge fallout? Did we had a divorce or a fight or something? I couldn't really answer them or dignify some of the responses that I really wanted to say. But it was surely a good thing to see the kind of love and respect that came across from the folks or people who were tuned in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. And even when I was on the plane, Freddie, people were coming up with the air hostess, people working at the airlines. I saw some folks down in New York, and they were very happy to actually meet in person, but they also said, they made some suggestions about the show. But before we get into that, and there's so many things we want to talk about tonight, I'm not in a very good place here, and I'm going to talk a little more about that later, before we open up our phone lines, because this show is all about you, the people of Guyana, wherever you are. We want to talk about the development of this country. That is of utmost concern to us. It is also what is also important to us. We want to talk about good governance. Where is this country headed? Are our leaders doing the right thing? And when we talk about leaders, it's not only the government; it is the opposition. And we're just here to give our views and to, of course, hear from you. And tonight is such a night. I stop right here now and hand the floor over to my good co-host Fred Kissoon, which he's going to refute my early statements about old age. Freddie?
Hello there. Welcome back to the program. I think Gildarie got to mention we come to you live on Guyanese Critic Facebook page and on TBN Guyana. Just type in TBN Guyana on your smartphone and you will see the program. So we are live. I don't reject the old age thing. I had the flu. You should type in if you're not familiar with it, you should type in, if you have your phone with your computer, Murphy's Law, and it will explain to you what is Murphy's Law. Simply put, something will go wrong at the time when you don't want it to go wrong. Gildarie was in New York, and the time Gildarie was in New York, those particular days, I had the flu, terrible flu. So let's hope when next Gildarie is out of the country, I don't have the flu. And if I get the flu, Gildarie is in the country. But it's nice to be back. Yes, people did send email, phone, and maybe it was remiss of us not to insist that the studio put that it wouldn't be these programs. Mr. Kissoon is indisposed, Gildarie is away, but that is behind us. Next week we have some interesting guests line up, and so the show must go on. We're back in business, or we're back in journalism. I shouldn't say business. Gildarie's in business. I've never been in business, although I married into a family that was in business. But we're back in business. For the time we were out, things that were happening, and I have things on my mind. I have this little thing to discuss with you. If when Gildarie comes back and it's my turn again to talk, I will deal with this. So there are things to talk about. This is a call-in program. The call-in lasts until 10. You can call in on anything. There are lots of things happening. Takuma Ogunse, the Guyana Human Rights Association, and the government's accusation against it that it's a one-man band, and there's so many one-person band in Guyana, and you wonder who they speak for. But those are some of the things maybe you could call in and discuss. I want to discuss something that I think holds the key to understanding this country. So let me hand over to Gildarie, and I will come back. Once again, our apologies for not being here for a couple editions. Gildarie was in New York, and for the time Gildarie left New York, I got sick, so I couldn't carry the program alone. But we'll have our guests next week and the week after, and the show is back on the road. Over to Gildarie. I did. We were chatting in the studio before we came on live, and we were discussing my flu, and somebody talked about Saigon, and then I just said to Gildarie, yes, I like Saigon and Gilbaka curry and Hassa curry. And he said, oh, you eat Hassa and Gilbaka? Who don't eat Hassa and Gilbaka?
Oh, there are some people who don't eat it, Freddie.
Oh. So over to Gildarie, and I will come back with this.
So you guys hold on the calls a little. We're going to open the lines, and you're going to have your opportunity, and the numbers are up on the screen there. Freddie, I've had some time while away to think about where we headed with this program. I would be the last one here to sit and say that I want to be someone who is sitting at this table or sit on this platform and be a yes person. I don't want to be one that endorses this government or any government because it's everybody's doing it, or follow the leader and be a bandwagonist. That is not how I envision my life to be. A man once told me, and it always stuck in my brain. He said, if you will fall for anything. You will fall for anything if you believe in everything that you're being told. If you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. And that thing has resonated so much that I cannot sit in this platform here and not speak my mind. I'm in business now, as you know, folks, and I've always believed that what played out in 2020 has changed my perspective in life. I was always very reserved, not a very talkative person. I like to stay behind the scenes when it's time to, as a reporter, to question whoever we are interviewing, or whether it's at a press conference we do our job there, and you ask the hard questions. But that's where it ends. You will never see Gildarie standing up at the podium giving us speeches. So it all changed dramatically in 2020, and I started expressing myself. Of course, sometimes you'd freeze up because it wasn't me. I always had a problem, going up, afraid of the crowds and so on. But I think I'm going to be 50 this year, and I don't want to live my life seeing things happen in
You
this
think you're going to
country.
be 50 or you're going to be 50?
I know. My apologies. I know.
You don't know your age?
I know that I'm not going to be the one sitting down, and I also know that Freddie Kissoon is not one who's going to be sitting down and says that all is good and dandy in this country. I have a business now, and I would refer to that. And I always believe when I entered business, at least there was some level playing field. Road awakening. There's some people who are hanging on and who use this government as or hang on to the coattails of this government. I could talk about that because it's my experience, and I do intend to raise it and to use my platform and to use my voice to not only fight for myself but fight for our people in this country. This country is going places, and it cannot be that one set of people believe that they're entitled in this country. Freddie, please hold those calls, folks. We're going to take you in a little while. This is important. Um, it cannot be in this country that one set of people believe that this country belongs to them, and they are the only one that is entitled to what this country, the resources of this country, the benefits that is going to be derived from oil and gas and everything else that follows. And if you believe that you could push that and it gets over my head, and I'm going to be intimidated by that, and that I'm going to be bowed and cowed into a corner, you have a rude awakening. My eyes have been opened, and my spirit, my family. I wanted to talk about this because I just took my family to New York because they had an opportunity, and my kids are there, and they're going to be going to school there. I don't believe that this country, they are going to be coming back to serve this country. That is what I planned. I know there's going to be people who are going to sit up and say, wait a minute, boy, you're in Guyana. Why are you sending the kids here? Don't you have any kind of confidence in the education system? It so happened that the opportunity was there all the time before this government came into power, and even before that, and I cannot take that away. We still have a very far way to go. This country is getting better, and I think many of you, many government officials have done the same. They are going to be coming back because that's a commitment that they've given to me. They're young yet, but they're very impressionable folks, my children. I am not going to be the one to sit by and allow this country to be taken away from us. Few people who's going to do that. And as the days come, and they will come, and I would be wrong, I'm going to be looking very carefully that a few people do not use the government's name. I have spoken to President Irfanali. I've spoken to Vice President Bar Jagdeo on many issues over the years. And it is my belief that they don't want to leave a legacy in which they believe that Guyana is not for one. The president has said it. He's pushing an agenda in which he wants a one Guyana. You cannot have a one Guyana, Freddie Kissoon, when one set of people believe that that all the contracts, all the benefits, everything that comes to Guyana, believe that you're forming a clique. And I believe, based on my experience over the last couple of weeks, that there are few people who are using this government's good name and the momentum that we've gotten to want to take advantage of that. And you and I cannot, and if you ever walk that path of turning a blind eye, I'm going to lose respect for you, Freddie Kissoon, and I believe in my heart that you're not that kind of person. And we would be hypocrites sitting here knowing that we could open our mouths and stand up for the people of Guyana, and we have not done so. We've lost the opportunity. We sat at the table. We could have opened our voices and stood up for the people who don't have voices. This program in itself, the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show, I'm not sure if there's any other program like this that opens the line and try to help people. If there is, I would say kudos to them. But this program here is designed. I've taken time off away from what I'm doing so I could come here without pay And we do it 3 times a weekend as much as possible. I miss out a couple of times because of commitments, Freddie Kissoon. But I cannot, I will say this to you, you're going to see a different Gildarie. And if a few business people, and especially one of them, believe that they could beat my business into a corner and I'm going to be sitting here and not say anything, they have a very rude awakening coming. I'm a Guyanese citizen, I have a passport, and I have a voice. And I do intend to use my voice. And that goes for all Guyana. You bring your concerns to this table here, and as long as I have breath in my body, Gildarie is going to be there. I know Freddie will speak for himself. Gildarie is going to be here to help you in whatever way. I'm not a politician. I don't intend to be a politician. I'm a good Guyanese. I'm a decent Guyanese. I want to believe so. I want to leave a legacy for my children, Freddie Kissoon. I would want to stop here because the people's business have to be attended to.
Okay, I've heard you. One has to speak one's mind. On the question of what you're experiencing, I think you have a right to speak your mind, and most importantly, bring those concerns to the government, to the relevant people with influence and power in the government. Concerning my own perspective on life, politics, power, I would say since March 2020, my eyes have been opened up. I'm an academic. Jesus Christ, I was trained to analyze things. So I analyze things. I analyze trends. I analyze phenomena. And I would say overall, my support is with President Ali. I think I have detected a man that wants to build a legacy for himself and wants to transform Guyana. I have an embrace for the direction this government is going in. I don't know how you want to interpret that. Freddie's a supporter. Freddie admires the government. I will put it in my own academic way. I think the government is going in a good direction. I hope the steps that are taken with concrete sincerity. I believe President Ali is a sincere man. Human nature is a funny thing. People can falter along the way. I hope not. But to contextualize what you were saying, I do not think people that are connected to the government should use influence and authority in connection recklessly. I know about that. I know there was a company that is close to the government. I should say maybe select people in the government. They held an open air concert opposite to where I live at the sprawling car park at Movie Town. And they put on some speakers there that you find at open air concert in the developed world. And that thing started from 8 until 5 in the morning. And I know those people did that because they felt, hey man, we can talk to people in the government. That is wrong, and it's going to embarrass the government. I did a column the next day saying, friends of the government. What I think happens all over the world, and you have an example of that of President Biden's son doing a consultancy for the Ukrainian government when his father was vice president. And the first thing people say, no man, you can't do that. So I think friends of the government should be careful that they don't end up embarrassing the government. And after all that the government has been through, the 5 months from March to July, it needs to take into consideration criticism from well-meaning people. I would consider you, we've been doing this program for 10 months, plus I know you the past 17 years. I know you're not anti-government. I know your sympathies are with President Ali. So whatever your problems you have, and if you find you encounter people that are being unreasonable, take it up with the government. I'll be quite happy to facilitate your wishes and your demands through seeing who I could talk to. But I believe the government is a democratically elected government that is going in the right direction, and it has my support. It doesn't mean that there will not be people who will not falter. I remember when Minister of Education Priya Manik-Chan was here, we specifically said to her, what about people who behave badly or misbehave? And she said, look, in a government you find all kinds of people, and you will find those kinds of people. I hope the government listens to some of the complaints. Before we start the phone lines, I did say this is where my analysis comes in of trends in Guyana, of the disturbing directions I see Guyana is going in. But most of all, not since I entered UG in 1975 have I seen intellectual ugliness of the worst kind in this country. Now, just let me show you something that I read lately during the time we didn't have this program. I will put it up here and ask our operator to zoom in on it. Let me read the headline of it. We are Guyanese grassroots women who will keep insisting that our voices must be heard. This is from the newspapers, if you could read it there. Now, tell me what you see wrong with that headline, because there's something politically and philosophically flawed with that headline. Let me read it again for you. We are Guyanese grassroots women who will keep insisting that our voices must be heard. Indeed, all voices must be heard. Gildarie's voice was just heard. Now, let me tell you what is wrong with this headline, and I read selected parts of the letter. One of the things that have been talked about the past 3 weeks around the world is that show that was put on recently called Selective Outrage. Mm-hmm. Okay, you've seen Selective Outrage.
I saw some snips of it.
Right. He termed Will Smith slapped him. So
Chris Rock.
Will Smith slapped him. So this was his first major. Mm-hmm. And Chris Rock titled his first major appearance in front of a large audience, Selective Outrage. Now you will see selective patriotism when I read this letter for you, in which Red Thread, the women group, is saying our voices must be heard. Now, let me read for you. Slowly. In a speech at the turning ceremony at the construction of a new stadium at Palmyra, President Irfan Ali said that hypocrites is the ideal term to define Guyanese who have been critical of his government's management of the oil and gas sector and its stewardship of the environment. The president spoke just after the vice president, Mr. Bharat Jagdeo, who said persons with ulterior motives should stop hiding behind titles such as environmentalists and biologists. Mr. President and Vice President, we are not your enemies. We are grassroots women across race and from several communities. We vote for and support different political parties, including the PPP. We may not always see eye to eye on issues, but we don't let party politics come between us and the work we do in communities. It has never prevented us from coming together to talk about issues that affect us as Guyanese and grassroots women. Does asking questions about oil and gas make us hypocrites? My answer is yes, it makes them hypocrite. Let me read one last part. It has never prevented us from coming together to talk about issues that affect us as Guyanese and grassroots women. Does asking questions about oil and gas make us hypocrites? The answer is yes. You know why? It has never prevented them, Red Thread, from talking about issues that affect us as Guyanese. Well, for 5 months, this country was on the brink of going completely down. I am 72 years of age, and I could only recall issues in Guyana that came close to the 5-month election rigging. The Wisma massacre, the period of Burnham's insane dictatorship, and the Buxton mayhem. Those three issues stand out as disdainful in Guyanese history. And the fourth one is the 5 months of election rigging that could have obliterated everything we achieved in this country. We would have just gone down. We would have died as a nation. I drove to the station in Lalouni Street. There are people all over the Vicinity Road, all the fast food. Guyana is alive. If we had allowed permanent government after July, with 5 months of election rigging, this country would have died. I want to put up my hand to you and say, if election, the March election, was denied and was fraudulently manipulated, and we had a permanent government and could not have been changed, this government would have died. Retred that says, this letter by Retred has not issued one letter or one statement condemning 5 months of election rigging. So I will hand over to Gildarie by quoting again, it has never prevented us from coming together to talk about issues that affect us as Guyanese and as grassroots women. Well, my question to you, what has prevented you from talking about rigged elections from March to July? Please, Retred, explain this to the Guyanese people. I close by saying the president is damn right. You guys are hypocrites. Over to you, Gildarie.
And I can't say that I disagree with you, Freddie. Freddie, something happened the last couple of weeks, and I saw Takuma Ogunse handed himself over to the police because they had issued a wanted bulletin. Do you know that 20 years back, and this is a point I want to drive home, 20 years back in Guyana, because of the absence of internet, this would have slid under the carpet? Do you know that if he would have said that nobody would have paid attention because they would have probably not been a recording? Everything, your life, Freddie Kissoon, my life, everybody life in Guyana is under scrutiny. And you have to assume that you're being recorded all the time. That means you have to be very circumspect, very careful in what you do. Imagine that man, a man would stand up and say, pick up guns, and turn that gun on somebody who doesn't look like me. How do you do that?
And that
what are you to be charged with?
And you putting it over mildly. At one stage, you say, when you turn the guns, the thing finished quickly. That's what he said.
There's another thing that happened. I saw the breaking news last night. It was not totally unexpected with Donald Trump, likely to face at least 30 charges. And there is still a possibility, although those charges, he's going to be in court to defend himself. As the president, as somebody who wants to have a second shot at the presidency, he might not be stopped. And that's an interesting thing. But hold on. The part that had me going was the situation, what is he being charged with? And guess what he's being charged with? It has to do not so much that they paid off a woman to cover up an affair that he is alleged to have had with that woman. Was the fact that he used what seemed to be the usage of campaign financing monies to pay that woman. He circumvented the system, allegedly again. So that is interesting for me when it comes to the issue of accountability about how our public officials should carry themselves. And again, I don't want to talk about government. I'm not talking about government alone. Public officials has to be opposition and government. And when you're sitting there, you have a responsibility. And I'm saying to the opposition as well, get your act together. The people on the road, Freddie Kissoon, are saying that the opposition is sleeping. They're not doing the job.
But we said that they have an agenda.
What is the agenda? Not doing the work?
The agenda is to oppose and bring down the government. And that's what Takuma Ogunse, unfortunately and sadly, got caught up in a situation that he doesn't understand. And the guy is living in the past. It will take a lot of time on this program to explain. But what I think Takuma Ogunse got caught in, you must remember he's 71 years of age. And he's been in 2 episodes in which he saw how the mulatto Creole class organized himself as a class force to take power in Guyana. The first one was the Creole mulatto class removing Chedi Jagan through the Creole class political party, the National Democratic Party under John Carter and Burnham coming to power with the help of the Americans and CIA, and Dr. Jagan was removed. That was a victory for the Creole middle class. And he was a young man then. He was with Sidney King, Guyanese Askew. So he saw the power of the Creole mulatto middle class. Then he was in the thick of it in 1970 when Burnham abandoned the Creole mulatto middle class and went into a direction that the Creole middle class abhorred. And the Creole middle class, the mulatto Creole middle class, founded a party to remove Burnham called the Working People Alliance. Yes, with Walter Rodney himself, who was part of that mulatto Creole movement. And they almost toppled they almost toppled Burnham, and Ogunse was played a big part in that. So he knows the power of the mulatto Creole middle class. And then the 50s repeated itself in 2015. The mulatto Creole middle class removed the PPP once more in 2015. So Ogunse is aware of the power of this mulatto Creole middle class and its revulsion against Indian people, Indian culture. So what happened is 2020 was never could have been imagined. There was no thought that David Granger, who was very close to the founder of the Starbuck News, David Akeris. In fact, David Akeris bought Granger's publication, Guyana Review, for millions of dollars. So what happened is from March 2020, the mulatto Creole middle class, of which there are many, many leaders, including the Starbuck News, have been harassing the government. It's a cultural thing. It's these Indians coming back to power, as Ravidev put it here. From 2020, the Creole middle class have been relentless. Relentless. If you read the editorials of the Starbuck News, just unreasonable and relentless. Martin Carter's son, Rory Westmore's son, Isabella de Carey's on a newspaper, the Starbuck News, Elisa Chotz and her column in the Diaspora. And so the Creole middle class, the mulatto Creole middle class, have been harassing the government from March 2020. And Takuma Ogunse, with this relentlessness of the Guyana Human Rights Association, Transparency Institute, the women movement, like Red Thread, I think he felt that the time has come whereby what happened with the WP in the 70s and what happened with the AFC in 2015 has arrived again, and that you could now remove the government. And the Creole mulatto middle class was egging them on, egging people like Burke, egging people like David Hines and Ogunse on. And Ogunse felt that now we have the moment has arrived, like the day of uprising in the 70s when they're supposed to overthrow Burnham. And backed by the Creole middle class, he went on the platform in Buxton and he said the wrong thing. He called for the overthrow of the government, using force, using the army to confront and kill Indian people. And I think he went crazy. But his interpretation was that the moment has arrived. The moment in his imagination has arrived.
I don't care how you dress it up or whatever it is, Freddie. I find it totally, fundamentally unacceptable that they're actually Guyanese or people in Guyana who could actually stand up and openly say these things. What goes through your mind to say something like that? I mean, I understand your analysis.
By Indians are your enemies. But you know the hundreds of thousands of people.
But you understand in this modern time that you have actually, you contemplating that there are actually people out there thinking something like that? That you could actually voice something like that?
The army. But what is wrong with this government? I
Oh,
would
my
like
goodness.
I would like people to come on this table and tell us, you know what Macron in France did? Bypass the parliament and pass the law by presidential degree. Macron. Biden has now resumed fossil fuel, the fossil fuel industry in Alaska. What is wrong? What is this government is doing that is so wrong that is asking the army and police to turn their guns against Indians? Look, he's living in the past. We could open the lines if you want now.
Absolutely. 231-298-2, 231-298-2, and you could also call us WhatsApp at 637-1071, folks. We want to hear from you. Make it short, snappy, so we could try to get in as many people as possible. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Freddie Kissoon. Good evening, Mr. Gildarie.
Good evening.
And good evening to you and all the listeners of yours. I wanna make a point about the case, okay? And I don't want you guys to cut me off because this is a point that...
No. Hold it, sir. We are going to cut you off if you advocate violence because...
No, listen. You gotta...
We are responsible.
I want to say that when Mr. Gonzi made the statement, like I would make a statement, Freddie said that this and this I should do. Because if you listen to the statement he made, he didn't say you guys or the people of Guyana should turn the guns on the Indians or the PPP. Just listen to me for a second, right? He says a diplomat was quoted from a diplomat. That's the first thing I want to make. That's one point. And you do the rest after. But the second point I want to make. When this Indian guy that come on national television and tell this Guyanese nation that he's going to poison each and every Afro-Guyanese. All right?
He's going to what?
When the guy come on Facebook and tell the nation, this nation, when he tell the world that he would poison each and every Afro-Guyanese in this country.
No, hold on, Freddie. Hold on. You're equating that to something that would have happened. A guy, this is not a politician, and he paid a price for that. He paid a price for that.
Tell me something. You just
come on Facebook and said he was poison.
But hold on, he paid the price immediately. All Guyana went down his throat.
Did he get a charge? I'm not defending, but I just want it to be a balanced case.
But you think you're being balanced. That's the problem in our minds. In our mind, we see. You know how much people that are racist. Write letters every day.
He's saying, Freddie, hold on, Chief, hold on. You made a very, hold on, Chief, hold on. Sir, hold on.
I am not going to give you a platform to...
No, hold on. Your point is that Ogunse is going to be charged, and that boy was not charged.
On a level playing scheme. It should go on a level playing scheme. The whole country knew about this guy. And nobody wasn't charged for nothing at all. What's going on in the country? You guys making it weird like it's not.
It cannot be the same.
What I'm looking at.
It is not the same. It is not.
You guys.
All right.
That is what I was afraid of.
That's the discussion. He's saying the man has made a point, and I would like to hear you on that. I could remember that incident. A boy or a young man went on Facebook and he says, I'm going to poison all Afro-Guyanese. I don't want to use the word black.
It cannot be the same with what you're going to say.
And he's saying, why didn't charge him? And we have Tacoma, which says point the gun on the people who doesn't look like me. He's making a point why they have a level playing field. The
issue, there are two different issues.
Right.
You always have the lunatic fringe who go on Facebook and would say, I can shoot up tonight. This is a case in which an opposition leader and a well-known activist,
they were on the same platform.
Were on the same platform, and this man was advocating that the army and the police, on the day of uprising, when the African people uprise to change this government, the police and the security forces, right, must understand and be conscious of kith and kin, and not use, and This is what he said, and use the guns in favor of Africans, and the story end quick, and it done quick. That can't be the same, and that is what, when he started, I anticipated he was coming in that direction. This program is not going to allow anyone
Thank you very much.
to advocate for
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening to you guys.
Uh-huh.
Now, I am Afro-Guyanese, and I want to make it clear that nobody like Ogunsi, David Hines, Rourke, or whatever the name, can stand at any platform and say they're representing me as an Afro-Guyanese. Never. Never. Those guys are a disgrace to black people. And I'll say this at any forum in front of anybody without any apology.
I want to ask a question here, Chief. Why can't we? I have a fundamental problem. This is me personally. Why we got to be discussing? Why we got to talk about Afro-Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese? I got a problem with that. Why can't we just be Guyanese?
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. And that is the problem. The problem with these guys is that they are so shameful and disgrace of what the past government tried to do within that 5 months. That all they can do is sit down and try to tell black people that they're fighting for them. We doesn't have a race issue in this country, and I always say that.
And I believe you.
Those people try to make it look like we have a race issue. They try to do it, and we as black people, we need to open our eyes. And let me say this, Mohammed Irfan Ali is going to go down as one of the best presidents this country ever had. He is going to go in the history books as one of the best leaders this country ever had.
And I'm glad. You know what I like. You know what I like about you, Carlo. I respect that that the fact that you could offer a kind of opinion like this, your thoughts on something like this, and this is how a progressive Guyana should be. That we could agree that let us look at the bigger picture here. What is good for Guyana? Let us cross the racial divide if there's such a thing. I don't want to believe there's such a thing. I want to believe there's a few dirty politicians in this country who want to hold this country at bay with their agenda, their wicked agenda.
Exactly.
That's what I want to believe.
They want to have a segregation against the two races in this country
for their own personal agenda.
All right, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, boss. I thank you very much for coming through, and you're a decent Guyanese. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye-bye. Folks, and I think I like this kind of conversation tonight. I think this is a kind of mature conversation that we should have on how this country should be developed.
They do not speak for black people. When black people,
let us see. Sorry. Good evening, Carlo.
Good evening, Mr. Kissoon. And very interested topic tonight, but here is my contribution, right? I am age 38. I was 8 years old in 1992 when the PPP won the election. Fortunately, my grandfather used to work in Georgetown. And this is what I witnessed in 1992. The PNC inflamed the streets of Georgetown with violent protests. And many Indian-owned businesses or persons whom they would have perceived to be supporters of the PPP. The businesses were either vandalized, looted, or burned to the ground. And persons were intimidated and even robbed. I saw that as a child, 8 years old. In 1997, I was attending St. John's College. And after the December 15th election, 1997, the PNC inflamed the streets of Georgetown. Early 1998, with violent protests. You understand? And the same thing reoccurred. But what I'm seeing now is evident that Afro-Guyanese in the numbers has rejected the coalition, the rhetoric, and more so, the devious objectives Because look at the numbers, look at the turnout at the meetings across the country, Mr. Kissoon. And you know what too? I want to thank you, sir. I have learned so much about my country's history by reading your column. Hello?
Yes, we listen to you.
I'm listening, sir. Yeah.
Yes, I've learned so much, my brother. And let me tell you something. If anyone had asked me about the PVP before 2015, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, if anyone had asked me about the PVP before 2015 because of the narrative that I would have been vulnerable to, because I grew up from 1990 to 2000, I live in Buxton. I went to Buxton Prime. You understand? In 1997, when Mr. Jagan passed away, I was on the public road when the Buxtonians stopped the truck and actually cried for Mr. Jagan, my brother. This is not figment of the imagination or a script I'm reading from. I'm telling you things that I recollect.
Mm-hmm.
And in reference to, or in reference to the guy that made that inflammatory statement in Buxton, you know what is revealing to, or what is even troubling? To know that we have persons that is still in the mental slavery. They have not decolonized their mind. You understand?
And I hear what you're saying there, and I agree with you on many of the points. And that these are look, the level of conversation has to start not by inciting. It has to be, how do we improve our lives? How could we move this country forward? But imagine you pointing a gun at somebody.
Right? I don't want to interject you. I just want to interject you. I know I don't have much time, but let me just stage it in, right? Now tell me something. David Hines lives in the US, where the majority of Americans identify themselves as Caucasians. Okay? The majority of the US House of Representatives, the majority of the representation there are Caucasians. They have a black caucus. They have a representation of Hispanic. You understand? But America is predominantly a white nation, if you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, black people specifically continue to endure the endemic issue that they have been plagued with since the abolition of slavery in America in 1865. Look at Trayvon Martin.
Okay.
All right. So here we got to
all right. Don't go off topic. Don't go off topic. Good.
I thank you very much for that.
Thanks for coming through. Let's give other people a chance. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Very intelligent discussion. Okay, there's another one. Let's take the people. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I think finally now we're getting to the realization that we should have listened. I don't know what Freddie would say about this, but we should have followed or at least give thought to the idea what Ravi Dev once said in this country, of dividing this country, because we see...
No. Raviv never said that, no.
He never said it?
No, I think he will object to you saying that. Only two persons have said that in recent time. Sidney King, which is now a UC Koyana, and in an executive meeting of the AFC, someone said that in the meeting of the AFC.
No,
but
I am telling you...
Ravi never said that publicly, no.
No, I'm telling you, this is before the AFC even come about. Ramjatan was still with the PPP.
No, I don't think Ravi Dev has ever said that. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm saying this to you then. I think that's the road to go down. Because from 92, 97, 2001, right through, every time there is an election, there is a bunch of people who do not, and I think you share the same sentiment that I'm about to say here. There are some people in Guyana who don't think an Indian has the right to be the president. I think you agree with me on that.
But I think there are classes of people who feel that Indians culturally should not rule Guyana because of their culture, they're Indians. And I think the mulatto Creole class look down on Indians in that
So
respect.
that is what I'm saying to you. So if you have an election and we go to the poll and you have 5,000 Indians who think that they want
Freddie Kissoon to rule me, and you have 3,000 who don't want that, which one do we follow? Don't we have a right to choose who we want to lead us?
Well,
so then if we're going to live in a country where we cannot have a right to choose our leader, right? Then it's better we have a two separate country. You take a part and we take a part.
No, but there's...
Listen to me. Next, in June, I'm going to be voting PPP for local government. God spare life in 2025. I'm going to cast my vote for Air Finale because I don't see nothing wrong with what they're doing up to now. Like I always say to people, bring the evidence that you have when people have that this people is corrupt and take them to the court. They have the ICC looking for leaders from all over the world when they're corrupt. Why are the opposition people keeping the evidence that could send somebody to jail as their own secret? What is their motive?
All right.
Another thing I would like to say, I noticed some of the people who does normally jump up and talk. I don't have a problem in calling names. I noticed some of them did not condemn the statement like Christopher Ram and Ram Jatan and none of them. I know, is Nagabutu still alive?
Yes,
I ain't nobody condemn. The one of us from the opposition side, and I have a saying, and I always say this, and I would say it publicly if given the opportunity. Indians will never be welcome and appreciated much in the PNC.
All right, Sean. All right. Let's take this call. Thanks a lot for coming.
All right, thank you very much for coming.
There's a local call here.
Thank you.
Let's take this local call.
Good evening, caller.
Hi, good night, sir.
Good night. So the first thing that you're going to do is take off the volume of whatever you're listening to. Just do that for me.
Good night, good night. How are you
Good
doing,
night.
sir?
Pretty good. Go right ahead.
Sir, I would like to compliment the second caller before this one called. The guy that called before this one. I would like to compliment him. He speaks very good. Uncle Freddie, is Uncle Freddie or Uncle Gildarie speaking with?
But he's speaking to both of them. I'm Freddie. The ladies are admiring him tonight with a sharp and crisp looking tie.
Okay, you look wonderful. You look wonderful. Well,
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uncle Freddie, the issue about Takuba Unganse, right? I can remember years back, I grew up, no Takuba Unganse selling in Kitty Market. He's selling in Kitty Market with a bicycle riding, right? I saw Uncle Freddie used to go there and gab for them for the morning or wherever. You understand? And a man with them intelligent we say he have could try to bring racial to this country.
But I want you to, if you could pause a moment and listen to this, because our viewers need to know this. Our listeners need to know this. That same man, Takuma Ogunse, and his party was ruling Guyana 2.5 years ago, was in the seat of power, had total control over Guyana. And when you listen to these devils and hypocrites, if you come from another planet, you would believe they never had power. These people were in power. What did Takuma Ogunse did? Why didn't he raise his voice about what his government was doing, in which he himself were doing wrong things?
Yeah, and he never improved himself on his mentality. Well, they say that my father always tell me one thing, Uncle Freddie. The way you live, the way you shall die. You understand? He never improved his intellect. He never improved nothing.
What is even more worrying, caller, is that we actually have people here who would dare open their mouth and that comes out of their mouth. Do you imagine that? That is even more worrying. But thank you very much for coming through there, man.
But respect, Uncle Freddie, and peace and love to you and you too.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. Bye-bye. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
You guys have a great program. I've been listening, and Freddie and my boy there. Anyway, Gildarie. My topic is this man Ramjatan playing Lilo Ramjatan in 2015, from 2015 to 2020. This man was power drunk. And what he did in Guyana to the Indian people, he used the Indian people them. Both he and Ramjatan used the Indian people them to get vote.
Both here Nagamutu, you mean? Both here Nagamutu, you mean?
Right, both of them. David Hines said it in the U.S.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw the clip.
Okay, I'm not done yet. And from 2015 to 2020, I thought Gulsaran passed away in Guyana. I never know the man alive. After suddenly alive, them bring him back. That's okay. That's okay if Gulsaran still around. He's still alive.
The former Auditor General Anand Gulsaran.
No, he was back before 2015.
Yeah.
A long time back.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I thought all these men, exist. Like Christopher Ramos opened him out, and I think I will vote for Glenn Lal to be the president. I want to ask Freddie Kissoon a question. Is Glenn Lal a real journalist? As a so-called, I don't know what to call this man. Is this man a journalist in Guyana?
If I describe that man, I think I will lose the respect of some of my viewers, and Gildarie may want to knock me behind my head.
We have other better things to do right now. Let's go ahead with the call. Come.
Anyway, thanks for coming through, man. Thanks for coming through. You made your point.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming through. So callers, we have. Okay, come. Let's go again.
This is our.
Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening, sir. So my contribution is this.
Sure.
I must first congratulate you guys on the great job that you're doing in airing the concerns and contribution of Guyanese or people that are interested. So that's my very first take. Now, my contribution in specific regards to the racial tension within Guyana is this. I do understand that many people have designed strategies to access resources in Guyana at various levels, whether it's monetary or otherwise. And that of itself, they try to use different narratives to their tactical advantage. And I think that that's the main thing that we must take into account and focus on. For example, I'm Afro-Guyanese. I've collaborated within the Guyanese that has provided great support for me, whether it's job relations and otherwise. So in my view, I understand that people at a certain intellectual level do support people of similar mind or similar type. But what I find is that there is a group of people that their version of egalitarian or Pacific awards within view of an egalitarian concept, they'll be like, listen, this is what we have to do and this is what we don't have to do to get stuff done. And mind you, let me say this, there are Afro-Guyanese that are actively fighting for cohesion and fighting against this particular type of group of people that have their own narratives that they perpetuate, not only against Indian people, but against good, outstanding Afro-Guyanese. So I want people and listeners to understand this, that the fight is not just against Indian people, it's against a particular class and a particular quality of person. Because I myself, and along with a couple other Afro-Guyanese, we have faced this. We have faced this in workplaces, we have faced this in many other social orders, that people may think that it's just generic to an Indian person. No. I've had Afro-Guyanese such as myself give me tremendous challenges simply because my ideals and qualities and morals differ from them. And whether it's in my natural performance or what they would like me to do against an Indian person.
And that's interesting that you have raised that. One of the things that went through my head as you were talking is there ever going to be a day in Guyana where the people we're going to reach a level of maturity that the people are going to start voting for parties and which issues, instead of become my grandfather voted for that party, that's how we do it. But why can't it be on issues like housing, better road, less corruption, better security for this country? Why can't we start talking those kind of language, that kind of conversation?
That's great. That's a great question, sir. And my humble opinion is this. There is a strategic attempt to keep people ignorant of really addressing true issues in view of a public and social benefit. So what they'll do, they use certain distracting narratives as to say, listen, this is more important. Let's focus on this because Gildarie doesn't like you. And really and truly, they're the person who's instigating all of these things.
That's a priceless observation you have made. And I said it earlier on this program. If you do not have a counter narrative, the narrative you are getting in this country, sometimes I am very saddened that the government and its intellectual leadership do not constantly counter some of the narratives that you see in this country.
It's difficult because most of it is done in a covert manner.
You need, some of it is very vulgar. I'll give you an example. The Starbuck News said, look, the private sector commission should not be part of should not sit in the board of the National Sovereignty Fund, National Resource Fund. The same paper said that, and that is because the private sector commission is close to the government. The same paper in the same breath said Dr. Vincent Adams should not have been removed as head of the Environmental Protection Agency, when at the time the papers were saying that the man was in the leadership of an opposition party. So it's all right for the private sector commission to be ousted, but it's fine for an opposition politician to be the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Take, for example, Mike McCormack. Mr. McCormack has been in that organization for 47 years. The Starbuck News said, don't worry about how long he's been in this one-man show. It is what he is saying that the government must pay attention to. But why should the government pay attention to a man who has no credibility and legitimacy in the country? Now, these are the kind of narratives that this program, well, I can't speak for this program, but for myself and other writers and other commentators need to constantly take, for example, Takuma Ogunsa's statement. None of the women's movement, none of the civil society groups have condemned what this man was.
Can I say something to you, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Let me say something to you, and I want to be totally honest, and I want the listeners to understand this thing. There have been one point in time in my life that I, as an Afro-Guyanese, have been weaponized to gain a particular mal-perception of a particular group of Indian Guyanese. And how is this, sir? People who come to you with a narrative and a version of things that are affecting you and say, you know what, these are the people who are responsible. And I'll be like, oh crap, really? Why do they hate me? And if you don't have, and the reason that I can speak from this position now is that I've grown so much intellectually. I've been able to detect different narrative methodologies and all of these stuff. So I'm speaking from a position of a more informed basis. And what I find is that people can be able to strategically manipulate you if you are not well informed, if you're not an individual that understands why people are doing what they do or why they say.
That is where people like us, the public intellectual, the Ravi Debs, the Gildaries, myself, Dr. Randy Prasad, that is where people like us come in, so we can help to clarify issues for those people. The financial guy, Bhagwandin, he's very bright. But anyway, thanks for coming through, sir.
Thank you very much.
Let's give other people.
I like your language.
All right, sir, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Right. So 231-2982, and we also have our WhatsApp or our mobile number that you could call into 637-1071. Interesting conversation, Freddie Kissoon. I think finally we get in somewhere.
I think this last caller his position need to be emphasized. You can get into people's head, and once you get into people's head, they accept your narrative. You know, people jump around and talk about Kaicho News. Kaicho News always anti-government. Kaicho News is so silly and so asinine. It doesn't have the influence of a Starbuck News. And that is why the narrative of a paper like the Starbuck News.
Could you lower your volume, whoever's calling, please? Lower the volume on whatever you're listening to. Hello?
You have to tune your volume.
Lower the volume of whatever you're listening to right away, please.
Yes,
right, I'm far away from there.
Good. Go right
Can
ahead.
you hear me clear?
Yes. Go right ahead.
Right. My contribution to you guys tonight is that I had such an ignorant man last night, Joey Jagan, who was on the program, glorified what's going on, and his father tell him what, but because he didn't get invited to speak at the forum, he joined with WPA and everybody else, and he said it last night. They have no respect for me. They didn't call and ask me my opinion. This guy here is flaming fire, and he go with the French Revolution, and he see what happened in Suriname, he see what happened in France and everybody else. Yes, but they're the guys who fanning the flames of violence in this country. Joey Jagan is nobody.
You know what Joey Jagan is doing? This is a man who constantly quotes his father. But his father is turning in his grave because this man, Joey Jagan, said he's a card-bearing member of one of the worst parties in the world, the Republican Party of the United States. But guess what the guy is doing? The guy is using his father's name. That is what he's doing. Listen what he's doing. Just a minute. Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. Listen what he's doing. This man has no intellectual understanding of Guyana. Guyanese society have nothing. But guess what he does? He stays alive by going on to bench up program, and he said, my father would not have done this. So people say, who's his father? Then he said, my father, Freddie Jagan. So this fool, this idiot that has no contribution to make is keeping himself alive by quoting his father. And his father is probably thoroughly ashamed of him. Joey Jagan is a member of the Republican Party. And that fool, and I don't know why the Jagan family do not tell him to stop quoting the name of Dr. Jagan. But anyway, so thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming through.
231 interesting calls tonight. Freddie. But back in the meantime, while we get in calls coming through there, 637-1071. Back to Joey Jagan.
You have to listen.
Wait a minute.
You have to listen to him. He talks a lot of nonsense, and then he said, the man may be semi-lunatic, but he has a sense. Every time he goes in a program, he wants you to know he's Dr. Jagan's son.
I have an issue with that for a simple reason. So because
he's Dr. Jagan's son, he is somebody, and he's nobody.
He's entitled.
Right.
So if
entitled to talk nonsense.
Look, the PPP party, like any other party, would have been evolving, and there's a different leadership. They might hold to the ideas, but there's a different probably direction in terms of how the world, and they're evolving to suit that. So if he's
how do you get through to people like Joe Jagan?
Yeah, but
how do you guys think he's irrational?
But are you entitled that you're saying that because you're Jagan that you have to be invited there to give a speech? There are leaders within the PPP, there are leaders within the AFC, there are leaders within the PNC. Are you entitled because Burnham is the daddy?
The man talks so much nonsense, and
it
then
doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
Then he says, "I'm on the world stage." Because guess what? Do you know who's my father? Anyway,
we are going to sleep tonight, folks. Come 231, everybody. The ladies who were loving Freddie Kissoon pink tie tonight.
For God's sake,
no, I'm not saying the ladies were loving it. No, I'm not saying that the ladies were complimenting you on your ties. It's not joke, Freddie. The people said that your tie is nice and you look sharp tonight. Another person said that they can use I'm a cutlass to cut your hair. Right? It's not me saying that. It's the people saying that.
I always use a cutlass to cut my hair.
231-2982, or you could call us, WhatsApp call us, or call us direct on 637-1071. Folks, let us get those calls coming. Let us hear some of your thoughts about where your country is. You know, what is it that you would like to see in the new Guyana? Because we're moving, we're going forward. We see something coming in here. Let us see. Yes. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
You gotta lower your volume.
Lower the volume of whatever you're listening to, please.
Okay. Do you guys have WhatsApp number?
I think this is a WhatsApp number you're calling on. Yes, go ahead.
No, I calling it straight, but I want to know if you get WhatsApp number.
We got WhatsApp number, but you might not get through because everybody's calling through that as well. So you can make your point very quickly.
But we listen to you. Make your point.
I just want to know every time I put on the Facebook why Guyana have so much racial. Every time you put on something on the Facebook.
Why you think
racial
Guyana has a racial problem? You might see it in certain quarters. I don't think there's right across the whole Facebook. Where are you saying that?
But every time I put on the Facebook, I see this racial.
There's a discussion on about a certain incident that happened here. I don't want to subscribe to the widespread belief that there's a big racism problem in Guyana.
There's no big racism problem.
I don't want
in
to do
Guyana.
that.
But I live in Virgin Island, and we have sheer like black living, and we don't have a racial problem here. I don't know why Guyana have a racial problem. Every time you put in Facebook Indian black, I don't know what's the problem.
I don't know what you're reading, but I don't read that. I don't see that. What I see or what I hear is coming out of the politicians and some of the so-called leaders' mouths.
And certain organizations, civil society.
The normal Guyanese people now, you know what they're asking for, my brother? I should come back to Guyana too. People want to know where the president and his team went to West Demerara, I think about 2 days back, Region 3. You know what were the two of the biggest topics they were discussing, what the people were concerned about? Housing. And what's the other thing? I think security NIS and housing. Those are the big things.
Anyway,
all right, thank you for coming through, sir.
Thanks for coming through. We got another.
One more point.
Sure.
No, we got a local caller on the line.
I married to a black girl, but it affect my relationship because my wife wants to come to Guyana and she's seeing the Facebook and she's free to come to Guyana. You understand what you're saying?
Man, what nonsense you saying there, man? No, don't put that thoughts in people's mind. I'm telling you that whatever you're reading is nonsense. Get that out of your head and get yourself better informed by reading.
Come and enjoy Guyana.
Come see Freddie Kissoon, all right?
Come and see Gildarie.
Guyana is a beautiful place. It's our country.
When you come in, call Gildarie. This is his number. So you can have lunch with him.
Okay, sure, man.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen.
Sure.
Very interesting program. A question has always bothered me for years because I grew up in the Burnham era as a schoolboy. And when I started school in 1968, we wore a tie. Then after 1 year, the Minister of Education told us that we no longer need to wear ties. That would be in 1969-70. And throughout the rest of my, until I reached upper 6 in 1976, we didn't wear any tie. We always wore short jacks to school. And I was looking at Comrade Freddie there. He looked like one of them clap hand church preacher. Right? Yeah. But to me, although Burnham used to wear tie before we became independent, I never saw Burnham wearing tie on, even up to when he died, or a suit. Is it necessary to wear a tie in Guyana? Or is that kind of colonial, to wear a tie?
No, sir.
I wear a tie
it's a matter of preference. Don't agree there. If you want to wear a tie, you want to wear a short jacket.
Excuse me. Stay on the line. Where do you live?
I live in 5th Street, Commerce Lodge, near UG.
Oh, okay. What? Do you drive a car?
No. I don't own that. I don't even own a bicycle.
You don't own a bicycle?
No. I only own books. I got about 2,000 books.
Oh, that's interesting.
And about a couple thousand files and a whole other chap of newspapers.
So what movies you look at?
Movies. I tend to look at stuff that is we consider the classics. Things like the David Lean movies, movies of the 1950s, 60s.
So you look at those colonial movies, David Lean. He make a bridge over the River Kwai.
Right. Dr. Zhivago and
so you know Dr. Zhivago.
Stuff like that.
So you're reading a lot of Western colonial authors. You don't like Indian movies?
I don't like the ones that think are songs. So I stopped looking at them maybe 20 years.
So you stopped looking at Indian movies?
Yeah.
So you could be accused of being anti-Indian, or you could.
No, I don't. I look back at the old ones.
I was trying to make a. I was trying to get a. I was trying to get a.
I don't look at it.
I was trying to get the point over anyway. Thanks for coming through, man.
Thank you very much. And contact me. I would like to hear about some of those books sometime. I'm interested in books. I can start reading.
Hey, hello. Are you there? I wonder if you have books in Guyana.
You can call me. You know the number. 637-1071. You could WhatsApp or call us directly on that. And 231 is a landline. 231-2982. I love the callers tonight. I love the vibes. This is what
I look like a church preacher.
Someone, the lady on the thing said that they got that you need a good jari so you won't get bad eye. I don't know what that means, but I could.
You don't know what's jari? Oh, you didn't grow up in Indian.
Of course, I get jari. You get jari too when you're small. What nonsense is talking? You get jari when you were small. Good evening, caller.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Get on to Gildarie.
Gildarie and Freddie Kissoon show. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Good night. I know if this March 32 could remember me.
If who?
I named Clement from from Kitty Market.
Clement from Kitty Market.
From Kitty Market. Remember David Starr?
He said it directly to me? Yeah, he says that if you could remember Clement from Kitty Market.
From Freddie Kissoon.
Yeah, I'm listening.
You know the man named Colin?
Salim from Kitty Market.
Yeah, the same Aguando. You see Aguando?
You called earlier. You called earlier tonight.
No, I didn't call it. Now I call.
Yes, I know. I know Takuma Gonse from Kitty Market. Yeah.
Remember David Wadi Bookstand?
Oh shoot, Portuguese David. Yeah.
Yeah, but remember.
You know what happened to yeah. Huh?
David and Colin.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Colin. This man.
Yes, I know his real name is Colin. Yeah, I know.
All right, go ahead and make a point, caller.
Yeah. He's really racial person. That's why he and David knows to do almost fight steady. He used to come buy books and me. Remember Clement?
Yeah. I know David, Portuguese David. Yeah.
David and Clement, right? We from Kitty Market.
So you still live around Kitty?
No, I don't now in Diamond now.
And you know what happened to David? Oh, I think David died.
Oh, we having a backyard conversation now. Yes, long time ago.
Anyway, Saul, thanks for coming through. Yeah, I remember David.
Thank you. I you know what I like is the fact that you used to borrow a book from Kitty Market.
I used to buy.
I used to leave QC, right, and walk all the way. Hold on, midday time, because my love for reading books. Go to La Penitent Market and reach back for 1 o'clock in school. That was a love for books. Freddie Kissoon. But I understand that you went to the library or somewhere, and there was an incident with you.
Stole books.
Good evening, caller 231. And somebody said they look like a Clapham church preacher. I don't know what that means. 231-2982. And of course, let's see, the calls are coming through. Good evening, New York.
Yes, good evening, sir. I just want to make a contribution.
Sure.
Concerning that every time the PPP has come to government, okay?
Yes.
That there is oppression on the African people.
You saying that? You saying that?
Yes, I'm saying that. That every time the PPP is in government, they're being oppressed of the African people. What about in the PPP in government and the Indian being oppressed? Where they have problem and nobody says nothing. You know? Nobody's saying nothing.
Could you give us a few examples of what you're talking about there, sir?
Yes, I'm talking is that when the PNC AFC was in government, there was no oppression. Right? Nobody says there is any oppression. As soon as the PPP come to government, all the oppression is on the African people. Nobody's saying nothing. How is that? I mean, and you know, the people who is in power and who is in authority is not saying anything.
All right. So you're just asking the question. You want to put that out there.
Yes.
All right. Something to throw on.
I mean, everybody is watching. What happened? You see, now is that everything is coming that African is oppressed.
But you understand? You listen to the guy who called not too long ago. That man there, Tacoma, and the rest of the people like him. Though do not speak for all Afro-Guyanese or do not speak for people like him. And that is a very telling point. I think there's also another addition that I would like to say here, is that our people are not stupid people. This is a time and age of technology where Google and everything is there. You could get something, information is there at just at the press of a button. People are intelligent and they're able to make their own conclusions. Very easy.
Yeah, because what the people at Parika Sidam, look, those people, they're all Indian people. So it was the narrative that they're portraying that only African is not getting what they got to get. Look at the Indian people. Not all Indian people is rich.
Yeah, we get your point, sir. Thanks a lot for calling.
Man, I like that.
Let's take this call here.
Very interesting call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good evening, caller. Hello. Good evening, caller. Well, unfortunately, you got to get your act together. Let's make sure that you're ready when we press the button there. Okay, there's another one again. Good evening, caller. Hello.
Hi there.
Yes, lower the volume right away. That whatever you're listening to, please. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi there.
Yes. Good evening.
Hi there. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on.
Sure. Go right ahead. Make a point.
Hello.
I'd like to follow up on the last caller's remark about when there's PNC, there's no oppression.
No, he was making.
No, he wasn't saying that.
He was making a sarcastic.
Right, he was being cynical. He was saying, look, whenever the PPP come into power, black people are being discriminated against, and he was being cynical. What happened? Indians don't have problems too. Why nobody speak about the problems Indians have? The way he put it over initially, I was skeptical.
Right.
But as he began to talk, he was making sense. It's not what you think. If you had listened to him carefully, he was actually asking a question by being cynical. How come every time the PPP in power, there's this thing about black people? So the Indian people don't suffer too? When the APNU was in government, what happened? Indians didn't suffer too? He put it over badly, but he doesn't mean anything negative. He doesn't. So don't jump on him. Don't jump on him.
Thank you very much for that clarification, because that's great. Because what I would like to say too, that there's a distinct demeanor with Indian people, and I could personally speak of myself and my Indian family. Indian people suffer in silence. They don't like to protest. They just take it in internally and they suffer. And so yes, there was a lot of suffrage for many years in Guyana by the Indian population, but I would say it's a bad quality, I would say. We have many good qualities, but this is one of the bad ones where we like to suffer in silence. But I think that's slowly changing with the new generation. That's changing, and I think we're getting more vocal and more assertive, and good for us for doing that.
Thank you very much. I love your point. That resonates.
The PPP in power now. Guyana, we actually have a fighting chance to be a better nation, and we must all work together to see that Guyanese in general, that finally we all can be happy. Us in the diaspora, blacks, Indian, whatever, purple, blue, we are so happy. We are so excited to see this new Guyana. We are happy for our relatives who have been suffering for so many years and left behind in Guyana. So let's just give Guyana a chance to be better. And even us as visitors, when we come home, we feel so blessed to see that finally our beautiful Guyana can actually be something on the map, and we no longer have to be an embarrassment of a country or a nation. So I'd like to ask my people, please, Guyanese, we must come together. We're one. And stop this fighting with race, black, yellow, purple. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all belong to the human race, and we mustn't fight. So I plead to my people, please be on best behavior. That is my contribution for tonight.
Thank you very much, and I love that very much. It's not this fighting, it's a few idiotic leaders or people who so-called leaders who want to push the wood in the fire. But thank you very much for that.
Yes, and I also realize there's a lot of people in America in high places, and they have a lot of nonsense to say. They live in luxury in America, and they just sit in their comfort of their home, and they make trouble in Guyana, and that must stop. And for the ones who are educated, we mustn't put up with it. We need to just suppress these voices. There's no place for them.
Hold a sec.
Thank you so much.
Oh no, don't go off. You're still, don't go off. You're still there.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to say thank you so much.
No, don't go off.
For having this show and for giving people an opportunity to speak honestly and openly about Guyana, because, like I said, we've suffered far too long as a nation, and we mustn't go back to the past. I am almost 55 years old. I lived in Guyana for 8 years, and I am sad. I'm saddened that I had to move away from my country, my birthplace, and come to an unknown place where I was beaten up as a kid in a Canadian school, being called a Packy, and I had to deal with all that and suffer as a little kid. And I grew up now as an adult person, and I still have Guyana in my heart, but I was chased away from my homeland because there was no future for us. I see my parents suffer. They came in a foreign country, having to start from scratch with no money in their pockets, the hardship. My mom's passed on now. I have nothing now to gain of Guyana, but I am happy for those who have left behind in Guyana. I'm happy for my family when I go back and I visit that they have a chance to live well.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you very much.
Our time is going.
Many of the people in the Guyana, it's not for us anymore.
Ma'am, thank you very much for coming through.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much for coming through. We're out of time.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so sorry, but I'm so passionate about this. And
I realize.
I just wish Guyana the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A very passionate lady there all the way from Canada. And of course, as Guyanese.
She made a point that I wanted to...
well, you can close that off. Because
she made a point with people who stay outside and want us to get rid of the fossil fuel industry. Well, and I'm not a believer, I'm not a religious person, but when I see these people, there was a letter in the papers about 30-something people signed this letter. Let's take this last call, and so I can get in what I wanted to say.
Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller.
That's the same.
I don't know. All right, Freddie, we got like about 2 more minutes.
No. I she made a very point.
Right, yeah.
There was a letter in the papers, and I went and I searched the names of these people. You should see like Pauline Melville, who left Guyana in the 50s, and a whole set of people who are based outside. Take, for example, Isabella de Caries. She lives in the UK. You know, these people telling us what we must get to the fossil fuel. Percy Hinson lived for 45 years in California, and we must get rid of our fossil fuel industry because that's good for the climate. And they benefited, as the lady said, from the fossil fuel industry. You know what the Chinese told the Americans? You use the fossil fuel industries to get where you get now. You see all those jet fighters and all those submarines and all those big skyscrapers you got? You use fossil fuel industry to get there. Let us use it to get where we want to go. That was the Chinese response to them. Let us use our fossil fuel industry so we can provide benches and tables to our students in school. That's my parting remarks.
Thank you very much there, Freddie. Freddie, I really enjoyed tonight. After being away for more than a week, there's still a lot of things going through my head. I think it could be concluded from tonight, at least the participants and the folks who've joined us tonight, it is very clear to me that we have a lot of decent Guyanese, a lot of people who are really, really concerned about the future of this country, and the level of conversation that needs to be had for us to really understand where we're going. I think I'm liking what I'm hearing, and this is good for the country. So, folks, for those who have joined us tonight, it was indeed a pleasure. I think I feel a little. I think I needed some more vacations from time to time to come back a little revived, rejuvenated, full of energy. But I am also very passionate. I think I've come back here and Freddie too. Let's take a different approach. Let's just don't go into the routine of talking or just interviewing people. History is good, and we must have an understanding what went on in the past, so we could not have a repeat of that. But also, let us have the kind of conversation and continue to have the conversation. So the kind of idiotic kind of talks that we saw emanating from one man's mouth that has landed him in jail at the moment, and he's going to be charged more than likely. We should not tolerate these people. We should turn our backs on them, and when they open their mouth, we know where they're coming from. This is not what our Guyana is all about. Our president is saying it, and I believe he's a genuine person. I believe that this government, like Freddie, has good intentions, but let's don't forget that there are people out there who are going to be capitalizing on that, want to take advantage. We're not going to sit down and tolerate it and allow them to walk all over us. This is a different Guyana. We're proud of what we have. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, good night, good morning. Freddie Kissoon and myself, on behalf of the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show, we will be back with you on Monday. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed tonight, and I like those conversations. Freddie, thank you very much, sir.